Well, it's that time again. Let's walk in faith, talk about anime, and grow together. Welcome to Reb's Otaku Talk. Hey Otaku family, welcome back to Reb's Otaku Talk, the podcast where faith and fandom collide. I'm your host Rev, and joining me is my co-host K2.
Howdy, howdy.
Raver Mom.
Hello, everybody.
And Techs-Mechs.
Hey guys.
And this is Season 3, The Character of Characters. In this season, we'll be taking a deep dive into the hearts, minds, and moral journeys of some of the most unforgettable characters in anime. This season, we're going beyond the battles, beyond the art, and beyond the hype. We're breaking down what truly makes a character compelling, their choices, their struggles, their growth, and what their stories can teach us about purpose, identity, and perseverance. From heroes to villains, side characters to legends, we'll explore how characters shape their story and how it can shape ours. So power up, press play, and get ready, because this is Reb's Otaku Talk. Let's get started. So today's episode, we are going to take a look at the character Stoner from Eureka 7. Stoner is the laid-back but dependable photographer and journalist aboard the Gekkostate ship in the anime Eureka 7. Known for constantly carrying his camera and documenting the crew's adventures, Stoner serves as the unofficial historian of the group, recording their battles, travels, and everyday moments for the underground magazine Rayout. Though he often appears relaxed and humorous, he is deeply loyal to the crew and passionate about telling the truth about their fight against the establishment. His perspective as a storyteller highlights the importance of persevering history and capturing the spirit of rebellion that defines the Gekkostate. So, Techs-Mechs, I did this one mostly because of you. You are the mech guy. And so, give us a rundown of it.
Well, I figured you did. Eureka 7 is one of my favorite of all time. You know, I watched it when I was, I want to say, around Renton's age, the main character, so, you know, it means a lot to me. But it's, the summary is, you know, it's a coming-of-age story, as you would imagine, in a very transformed world. You know, there's the Corallian, which is this alien race that, well, the alien race that, it resembles like coral, you know, like underwater coral. Yeah. And, you know, according to the lore of the story, that there was a war and the humans lost, and it's once you get into it, you'll see it's really complex of a story. But the more simpler parts, the parts that really matter, are the dynamic between Renton and the crew, and the heart behind every single character and the relationships he builds with them. And it's just an incredible story, you know. As far as mecha, you know, great animation, you know, great battle scenes. I think it's the only anime I've seen that has like surfing mechs. Yeah. You know, it's a real cool concept.
It is an interesting concept you don't see too often.
Yeah. It's very, how to say, like, it's got a hippie vibe to it because of that, hippie, you know. Yeah. It's, you see it in the characters, especially like Stoner. Yeah. You know, so it's great. It's a great combination. It's very original, very authentic.
So what do you like most about it?
Oh, man. I mean, at the time when I was that age, it was really the thrill of that, the romance aspect, you know, enveloped by an action adventure in a world that's changing. There's sci-fi, there's science, pseudoscience. You know, it's got all these elements that I was really into at the time, and it even delivered things I didn't think that I liked until I watched it. You know. So, but that's what I really like about it, is it was the romance aspect and the whole Renton getting to know who he is. Not really knowing who he wants to be as a man, but learning that through the story.
All right, K2, what'd you think about it?
Not one of my favorites. I think the story dragged out a little too long. It just felt like there was a bunch of filler episodes. We were just talking about it just before the podcast started, but I just felt like I got story and I started getting invested in it, and then it was like an episode and a half of like filler, mundane, slice of life almost kind of stuff, and then more story progression. And it just felt very slow in terms of story. And I think there's a lot better mech animes that tell a better story.
Okay. I think pacing is one of the issues.
Yeah,
I think.
Like for me, I think for me, it kind of felt like the same story as like Evangelion, but Evangelion did it better. So,
ouch.
Yeah.
I'm like Techs-Mechs. I watched it whenever I was younger, and I know that whenever me and you first met and we talked about anime, Eureka 7's one of the things that came up because I never finished it. Mm-hmm. So I borrowed it from you. I got to finish the second half of it, and I can tell you that watching it older versus younger,
it's not the same.
Way different.
Yeah, it's very different.
I mean, you begin to realize just how adult it was, and that 12, 13, 14-year-old us probably shouldn't have been watching it. I mean, there's not much about it that is, bad as in, full-on imagery, but like we were talking about Initial D last week about insinuation. There's a lot of insinuation throughout that entire anime.
Wow.
I mean, ton of insinuation.
Well, I'm glad you watched it for me.
It's that oh man, the lead guy of the Gekkostate, I can't believe I forgot his name.
Holland.
Yeah.
Holland and his girl that he kept on stringing along, she ended up getting pregnant.
Yes.
The insinuation is there.
Oh yeah.
We all knew that junk. But it was like that throughout the entire thing.
Talho.
Yeah. So it, a lot of the insinuation was there, but I passively watched it, which was probably not the best thing in the world for me to do, because I passively watched the first season, and then I actually paid attention to the second season because I hadn't watched it. But then, upon watching it a little bit with Raver Mom, just a little bit we did, there's more adult imagery to it than what we probably would have remembered from when we were younger. So I mean that leans more into the parental side of it, and Raver Mom can help me with the parental part.
I wonder if when I had seen it, it was on TV, so I wonder if
it was on Adult Swim, so they wouldn't have taken anything in.
No.
Oh.
That was Cartoon Network After Dark, homie.
Yeah.
Toonami.
At least as far as the TV can take it.
Only on Toonami.
For free.
Even back then, sometimes they took stuff out.
Yeah.
Even on Adult Swim.
Yeah.
I mean, you watched it once you got the...
There's limitations.
Yeah, once you got, it on DVD or whatever, then you got all the extras back in or added in, or like you got director's cuts and all that. And
yeah, I know that, like, with Cowboy Bebop on Toonami, the language was censored.
Yep.
More.
Yeah.
Yeah, not 100%, but
what he's roundabout hinting. So I'm gonna be the worst one at giving an opinion about this show, because I didn't watch part of it until today, and I only got past season 1 and not season 1, episode 1, and I almost didn't even finish that, because I promise you, if the boy said one more time, "This world sucks," my life sucks, and again, oh my goodness gracious, like, his state of the obvious was more annoying than Zenitsu was at screaming and crying and passing out.
And Raver Mom sitting there, "This show sucks."
Like, I'm not kidding you.
When all that was going on, I was expecting to see him get like a Sasuke makeover.
Yeah, like, seriously, like, my life just sucks. Like, dude, obviously it sucks. Like, you live with your grandfather up in this tiny little room, and you've got pictures that shouldn't be on a 14-year-old boy's wall. But the part that he's probably talking about is the part that I pointed out, because I don't mind watching the intros and the credits and all that, especially if it's a show that I haven't seen. Or if I've watched it, I'll go back and I'll let it play and whatnot. and there was a part where I don't even know who the character was. I don't even know what it was, but in the intro, and it was literally, I want to say maybe 2 seconds.
I don't
where
even
it
think
flicked.
it was that. It was a flash.
It literally flicked on and flicked off so fast that when it did it, I was like, "Did you just see that?" And he goes, "Saw what?" And it's literally from what I could tell, and we haven't like actually like paused it because the kids were up and stuff like that. So it wasn't like I was gonna like rewind it to try and figure out what it was, but we let it play through the intro of the second episode, and sure enough, it's the top part of a woman, no tops. It's nothing is on, and you can full see
Graphic.
skin, and she's holding a sword like in between her bosom, and I was like, yeah, not watching this anymore. So I might give it another rewatch when I'm not aggravated about it, but to me, like, I was very upset.
Man, I wonder if I had just completely watched over that.
It
If they had that on
literally-
TV or not.
It literally was like when I say it was like
That's
2
kinda
seconds,
subliminal.
it wasn't even like 2. I mean, like unless you were looking for it,
Yeah.
because the first time it happened, I mean, in the blink of an eye, like it flicked, and I was like, well, maybe it was just like the images. You know how like some images will blur together because they go so fast. I thought maybe it was that. Well, we let it play, and
Yeah.
as soon as it popped up, he was looking, and I was like, wait a second, it's like right around when they start going really fast, and sure enough, it popped up, and it's in the intro.
Oh,
I don't know what character it was, because like I said, it's so fast, but it sure is the top part of a naked woman.
wow.
And then in the boys, which I get, boys have posters of girls and all this stuff, whatever, but it was a poster in his wall, and it was probably like a 1x2 poster, like not, it was like an actual poster of a girl that is like, it looks like she's trying to take her shirt off, and she's like she's like this.
There's some exposure.
And she's covering, like he was saying, it's like subliminal, like it looks like it's something, but
Yeah, it's like
that
those, the swimsuit edition type
yeah,
posters.
that doesn't show anything. Like it was suggestive, like, and
It was
I'd have been
racy.
okay with that, but after seeing the quick image in the intro, I was like, yeah, not my kind of.
Now you know what to expect.
Yeah, no, I'm not watching it.
What's bad is is that doesn't fold into like later into it, which is the part that kind of confused me whenever she pointed it out, because like I said, I passively watched that part. I only remember
Yeah, I
so
don't
much from
remember-
whenever I was younger.
Yeah, now you
to
guys are
now.
going to go back and like rewatch it.
Yep.
But I mean, the crazy thing is even the artistry of that didn't. What confused me on that particular image is it didn't look like the show. That's why I was like, I don't even know if it's a character. I don't know if it's like one of those like poster thingies.
Yeah, it looked almost like tattoo art.
Well, the weird thing is I watch the intros and outros all the time on YouTube. So it's really weird that have I really been missing it all that time?
It's
Or
you'll
is it
miss
on the
it if
DVD?
you're not. You'll miss it if you don't.
It's like a fraction of a second. It's like a
like
blink
it's
of an eye.
so
feel.
fast.
Wow.
Well, what's bad is it's the only yellow frame out of the entire thing.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like you've got dark colored, colorful, and then it's like whitish yellow with the image, and then it goes back to the colorful. Like it was literally like cuts of the show, and then this was inserted, and then it's cuts of the show.
Mhm.
Like it was weird.
Yeah, it's
And
like,
this isn't like a statue. It's like an
No,
actual...
it's a picture.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like it's a straight up picture.
Yeah, it was.
Or
it
a
was
drawing
Yeah,
or
wow,
something
that's-
like
that's
that.
crazy.
weird. And
Yeah.
like I said, I wanted to pause on it just to see, like she said, to see exactly what it was, but we're not going to do that with kids around, especially with something that's going to be,
Well, it kind of explains
suggestive.
the family part.
Yeah.
Are you
portion
looking
of that.
into it, Katie?
I'm looking at it, right now.
I mean, because he, like he said, he never recognized it, but I feel like because it's so fast, and like you brought up subliminal, like it's so fast that it could be something like that, and
Yeah.
to me, that degrades the whole show.
Yeah, it's
If
the first
that's
thing you see.
if that's what they're trying, it's because it's the first thing you see.
Yeah.
Because if I walked in and my son is watching this, then that pops up. I'm sorry, I'm taking whatever you've got with it on it, and I'm getting rid of it because a little kid does not, or a child, teenager, you don't need to be seeing any of that.
Yeah.
Like that's adult stuff.
and that's why it was on Adult Swim.
Yes.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yep.
Like I said, whenever we watch something whenever we're younger, it's like, what whatever.
I think
you know.
Inuyasha was
cool. You know,
Inuyasha was an Adult Swim too, but I really don't remember
Well, and
anything like that.
a lot of things whenever you're younger, I mean, like, because I've watched stuff when I was younger and I liked it, and then I watched it when I'm older, and it's like, oh, I mean, we do that even now with movies, with songs. You know, there's a song the other day that came on the radio, and I was singing, and I was like,
Wait a minute.
what am I listening
saying?
to? And I've got my girls in the back, you know, like, you don't realize it. It's that innocence that, you know, kids have. Like, they don't realize what they're doing or what they're listening or what they're watching.
Yeah, and I remember my parents that used to get onto me about certain things, you know, or shows or whatever it was, and I used to think as a kid, I was like, oh, they're just, you know, they don't know what they're talking about, you know, they're not, you know, they're just being picky about everything. And as you get older, you're like, whoa, like, yeah, there's a whole other world.
Yep.
You know, the veil has been removed, and now you can really read into it and see everything.
Yeah, so I mean, it, you know, like I said, I just watched it within the past half a year. So, I mean, as per the show itself, I don't think it's half bad. After watching the intro with Raver Mom,
so it's not one of your top intros.
It's like let's slice the intro off.
Yeah.
And
well, not even slice the intro off. Just take that image out.
Take that half a second out.
Honestly, don't feel like even that image helps anything.
I watched the first season with Raver Mom whenever Kid Koopa was a baby, and I don't remember seeing that. But we were watching the first Funimation release.
It was on streaming.
No, it was one of the you know, one of the save, you know, like how they used to have anime DVDs and they had the green save spine
digital
down
copy.
the side, and it was it was like a value DVD set.
Wow.
That I borrowed from somebody, and I don't remember it being on there.
Yeah.
So it could have been one of those, you know, things where they censored it. But what I borrowed from you was
the uncut.
That was uncut Blu-ray, and so yeah, I guess I wasn't paying. Again, I wasn't paying.
I wonder what
attention
studio
for
did
any
it.
of
I think it was Aniplex, wasn't it?
I know that Funimation had part in it. I don't know if Aniplex did as well.
This just says Funimation on the case.
Okay, it's Funimation. Yeah.
So yeah, from a parental standpoint,
well, I looked up. Let me.
Okay.
Let's point this out for a minute. On the back, because I was looking at the rating, that's what I was trying to find, and it says TV 14.
Mm-hmm.
TV 14 indicates a program is intended for teens aged 14 and older, meaning parentally strongly cautioned and possibly unsuitable for children under 14, which means it implies intense violence, sexual situations, strong language, or suggestive dialogue. No offense, my 14-year-old, well, I don't have one now, but I have a 13 and a 16-year-old, and neither one of them are going to watch this.
The language is pretty strong.
The thing
I think Renton gets cursed out a couple times.
Back when it was first released, it was 16 plus. So the ratings actually dropped.
Really?
From your Blu-ray release. So, but it used to be 16 plus.
That's the way the world's moving.
I was looking. I looked all that stuff up. Whenever we had, you know, when we were watching it earlier today, and it originally was 16 plus.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, again, like you said, with the way the world's going, with the ratings are going down, half
They're
the stuff
more.
that's rated R now would have been rated X whenever we were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
forget the 50s and the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the stuff that was rated R in the 50s and 60s is R-rated PG now.
Yeah.
Heck, it could be R-rated G now. So yeah, it's. I mean, I would say, you know, if it's a younger teen to a kid, be massively mindful of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing that I saw a lot of parents say who rewatched it, like we did, was to watch it first, then make your decision. For a lot of people who did rewatch it, who were single with no kids, who did a review on it, because of the moral behind it and the virtues behind it, a lot of people said that they actually turned back to God because of it.
Really?
And it's the weirdest thing to read in a, because we look at common sense reviews, which is parental reviews.
Shout out.
And then massive shout out, which is parental reviews, and then it's also a lot of Christian reviews. You know, it's religious reviews and stuff like that. And a single guy went on there and reviewed it, and he's like 16 plus should have stayed the rating.
Yeah.
But he said, even past the sexuality of it and all the violence, because of the root of what they were going after, he said it actually turned him back to God.
Well, the show
which
does...
is it was a weird concept to look at now.
Yeah.
You know.
On the surface, yeah. Because it does have a complexity, if forcing the main character Renton to come to terms as to what does he want to be. You know, it's a really deep show when it comes to that.
Yeah.
You know, it's
it's him transitioning from being a kid to being an adult.
Right, and he's got all these different. He doesn't have a father, or his father has died. Yeah. So he's looking up to all these different men, including his grandfather, Holland. Because Holland and the Gekkostate, they're like his heroes.
Yeah.
So he gets to meet his heroes, what they say you should never do, and he gets a rude awakening as to the dark behind the doors, what it's really like. It's not all like fame and glory. You know, there's themes of war, there's themes of death, there's responsibility as a father, all these different themes. You know, and he's having to really, become adapted to that.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of mixed reviews online about it, and I think the biggest thing that I can say about it is, if you watched it when you were younger, don't let your kids watch it until you watch it when you're older, because you're gonna notice and realize a whole lot of stuff that you didn't realize when you were younger.
Yeah.
Just because, like Raver Mom said, it's our innocence whenever we watched it the first time. And now it's an understanding of watching it the second time. From a Christian perspective, like you said, it's got a lot of dark versus light. It's got it talks a lot about forgiveness. There's a big hunt for salvation through season 2, and it's in season 2, it all came down to chasing after the light, and it also came down to see how could I word this, creating a heritage and creating the type of heritage that you want to see move forward, and you see that in how Renton took care of Eureka's kids before all of that junk happened. Which was pretty genius on his part. But, so it, as always with any of this stuff, use discernment. And before you, again, let your kids watch it, just be mindful of it.
Yep.
Because of the fact that now it says 14 plus. Back in the early 2000s, it was 16 plus, and it was that way for a reason. I mean, I would even say be careful of some 16-year-olds even watching this. I wouldn't let Kid Koopa watch it after seeing what we saw today. Season 2 was a heck of a lot cleaner than what Season 1 started out as. That's we'll leave that there. What would you rate it? 1 out of 10, Techs-Mechs?
Just overall?
Overall,
oh man, that's leaving it on my shoulders.
You're the start off, man.
1 out of 10, man. Well, considering the music and considering the themes and with the detractions of the adult themes as well. Obviously, I think for an adult, as an adult, I'd say 7.
7.
Yeah. I think animation, considering animation, character design, all of that, I think I would say 7.
Yeah, I give it a solid 7.
Okay. Taking both seasons into consideration, I'd give it a 6. I'd give it a 6, just a solid 6.
Yeah.
Raver Mom.
I am not gonna rate it only because of the fact that I only saw one episode.
I think you should rate it.
And it sucked.
And it sucked.
Rate season 1.
Rate episode 1. She only watched episode.
I only watched episode. I literally only watched episode.
So that's
1.
a 0, guys.
So it's a 0 for me. If you really want me to rate it, that I'm sorry, but I will put it on my try again list.
Okay.
And leave it at that.
That makes sense for Raver Mom, I think. You gotta think about the kids for sure.
Well, it's not just that. It's what you put in. Like, I mean, and
what comes to the
I almost feel hypocritical when I say that, just because of some of the shows that I do watch. But I think it all boils down to discernment and how comfortable you are feeling. If it makes you feel icky on the inside, or the least bit uncomfortable, then you probably shouldn't be doing it.
That's true.
One of those. If you are like, I can separate from this, I can just watch this, because you could say this about Harry Potter. If I can separate the fact this is just entertainment, that's all, and you don't take it any further, then okay. But like, if you feel uncomfortable with it, don't watch it.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't ignore that. That's something that we should always be listening to.
Yeah. So and again, if it was because now that I know that one piece is part of the show, okay, I can kind of understand maybe they did it so quickly because it wasn't like hyper focused on it, and not many obviously teenage boys are going to notice it right off the bat unless you're looking at it, unless you're looking for it. So I mean, maybe they did that just to have that piece in there because it does sound like a big part of the bad guy, I guess is the guy you were talking about. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I can understand, but at the same time, that's why I said I'll give it another shot. But that says that not anytime soon. Because I have all these other things I'm trying to watch.
I think that's generous.
If you look at the structure of the mythology that they built, it has almost like a Greek-Roman type feel to it. Mm-hmm. And we took a moment and we actually went through and we stopped on the image, and that image had a little bit of a Greek-Roman feel to it. And I think that kind of just feeds into the structure of the mythology that they did. But even so, if you are uncomfortable looking at Roman art or looking at art from like the Romantic period where, it's like topless ladies at a well and all they've got is a thin veil over them or something like that, then you're not going to be comfortable with the image that's shown.
Yeah.
It kind of, it got me off guard because, like I said, I don't remember the cover of the book at all.
Yeah.
If it's something you're not comfortable with, then you're not going to like it.
Yeah.
If it's something that you are comfortable with, still be discerning. Mm-hmm. Don't ignore your spirit, man.
That's sound advice.
And again, we'll just we'll leave that right there. Reb's Otaku Talk gives Eureka 7 a 6.5. Sorry, you can't keep the 7. It's now Eureka 6.5. And if we add in Raver Mom 0, it's more like Eureka 3.
Ouch.
So
probably not that low. I might get down to a 4. But...
so she gives it like a 1. So that's Eureka 4.
There we pity go. Point.
Eureka 7 got season 3's first pity point.
We always give out a pity point.
There's a couple of pity points throughout the season. This is the first one. Funny enough, looking at Holland and all the guys from Gekkostate and Renton and Eureka, the person who stuck out to me most was Stoner. And I don't know if it was because, you know, he was that California surfer type talk, man, you know, the philosophy guy, you know, got, you know, beach bum completely, and there's no oceans on the surface. You know, he kind of caught my eye, but he, I guess I'll start this one off. I haven't started one off since I think the first episode this season, but for me, he was the most observant person in the entire show, and that's all he did was observe.
He felt kind of neutral, didn't he?
Yeah,
massively.
Yeah.
And the thing is whenever he had to stand on a side, he had all his ducks in a row. He could tell you why, and he could give you evidence, and he could lay it all out for you. And you couldn't argue with him. You couldn't fight him because of the fact that he observed everything from top to bottom, inside and out, and he saw the picture as a whole. And one thing that we forget to do in our daily lives is to just observe. You know, we can see the outside of a situation, but we don't observe long enough to find out what is actually at the foundation of the situation, whether it's good or bad. We just take everything at face value and we whine and complain about it. And that's what we see in Eureka 7. Everybody whined and complained about everything.
This life
Especially Renton. Everything sucked, you know? But,
I think that's my new catchphrase.
you know, he was able to sit there and just constantly observe. One thing that me and Raver Mom learned in ministry growing up and then in our own ministry was just to constantly be in a state of observation. And whenever you're in that state, you can make better judgment calls. Whenever you have to, you know, step up as a witness to something or something like that, you can 100% give an account. If you have to do a business meeting or something like that where you got to set it, lay everything out, you can do it 100%. Where if you didn't stay in that state of observation, you couldn't do anything. I mean, I remember I worked for O'Reilly Auto Parts for a little bit, and I wasn't even there for 3 days, and I got pulled into the office by the district manager, and two managers were at each other's throats, and it was not healthy for business. It was affecting customers and everything else. He pulls me in there and he goes, okay, you're the only person I'm calling in here for this because you're a pastor and you're going to be honest. And I'm like, wow, you're pulling that card already. And I looked at him and was like, what? And he goes, okay, you know the situation between blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Tell me about it. I looked at him straight up and I said, they're both at fault. There's no one side or the other. Both of them are running their mouths. Both of them need to shut up. And he looks at me and goes, okay, thank you. See you later. All right. Everybody else was saying, oh, this guy's right or this lady's right, but nobody would stand there and be like, both of them need to shut their mouths. Both of them are in the wrong.
I think yeah, in this world right now where everything's hyper polarized and there's red, there's blue, there's purple, and everyone's picking their color, right?
Yeah.
You know, you don't have a lot of I want to say stoners, but I think you do. But I mean, characters like stoner.
Wrong. Stoner.
You got a little too much.
Not that kind of show. But he, I really felt like he was kind of like one of the elders of the group that they had. You know, you could go to him for advice. He would always give you this unbiased opinion. Like you said, like he had an answer for everything. You know, he would even argue sometimes and get on Holland's case about some decisions that he had made, and Holland recognizing that not just that he was older than him, but he was almost wiser than him. You know?
Yeah.
And I think right now we need some of that. We need to, remove ourselves from the situation, remove our idea of our tribe and our bias, and really see the bigger picture, like you said.
Well, the cool thing is we have an example in the Bible of that, and that's Jesus. If one of my professors, when I was going to Lee University, basically, had us do like this whole little like discussion board report thing, and it was to put yourself in Jesus's shoes in a circumstance, and if you would say you were in the audience of any of his teachings, he always knew what to say. Well, not just because he was part God, he's God's son, but it was because he was one of the most observant people. He knew exactly what to say. He took every detail in, and honestly, I feel like he would even pause at sometimes, because knowing what to say, how to say it, when to say it, and stuff like that is probably one of the most important things to do in life. And a lot of times we as humans want to react instead of respond. And Jesus was the responder. And again, only saw one episode of the show. And yeah, I do understand why he's called Stoner. But I feel like...
What's bad is with that, just quick, go ahead and finish because I don't want you to lose your train of thought.
Well, no, he seems like that kind of person, though.
Yeah.
I'm not talking to like the stoner joke. I mean like how sometimes it's funny because sometimes people who are slow to speak are judged automatically as dumb.
Yeah.
Or ignorant, or you know what I mean? Like they're those they're autistic or they're disabled or whatever, and that's not the case. There are times where I stutter, or I missay the wrong word, or my brain is like glitching or whatever. I'm a third grade teacher. Do that with 23 third graders. They will definitely point it out. But the thing is it's because we want to speak so quickly instead of pausing and responding. And when you do that, it's basically like what stoner is. You have to be slow to speak. And the Bible even talks about that, being slow to speak. So
when you say, Jesus is a perfect example of that, because he is the Word become flesh.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it would be very fitting for him to know exactly what he's going to say. And he says he receives it from the Father. He doesn't even speak it himself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great example. So I almost like we see some of that in that character.
Yeah.
That slow to speak, quick to listen.
Yeah.
I love that.
The thing that really got me with Stoner and what and where I got this verse that I'm going to share with you guys from was whenever the creatures, the alien life form started coming out, and he started talking, about how they don't seem, naturally aggressive. Something's pushing them, and nobody's wanting to listen to him. But he was looking at, those creations.
Subcoral, I think.
And Romans chapter 1 verse 20 says it's talking about observing God's creation and seeing God as real from it. Observing what's around you is enough proof that God is real and that God is God. Romans chapter 1 verse 20 says, "For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse." If we were to take the time and just observe God's creation, observe the negative impacts of what we do, observe what we do positive in the world, and how God's creation responds to it, just seeing what he created and what it does, that there's no explanation for. There's no way we can 100% describe why it does what it does. We've got names for it all, but we can't explain how a plant goes through photosynthesis. We can tell you what photosynthesis is, but we can't tell you how the plant is able to do it. We can't tell you how, if you were to break open a rock, how you see crystals in it. we know how the crystals are formed, but how are the crystals actually going through that process? You know, we can only tell so much until we come to a conclusion. And there was actually a physicist over in, I believe it was Japan. A physicist wrote a essay in a journal, and he flat out said, "We are chasing our tails. We are digging into molecules all the way down to the smallest atom, and we can't go any further. The only conclusion that we'll ever come to is that a god created this." Mm-hmm. And he said it like that. A god created this.
I think that when I hear that verse, that he says that there would be no excuse when you've observed nature, is the fact that when you do observe nature, everything has a purpose. Mm-hmm. And science, without knowing, or even those that do know, who also believe, they write these natures, they record these laws of nature by what the purpose is.
Yeah.
You know, genetics, or just every process that they see, they assign a purpose, because that's the only way that I think that's the way that we think, is that this must be because of this reason. There's a cause and effect, and it leads in one direction, and this direction leads to that purpose. Oh, okay, you know, certain people have certain skin colors in certain areas because of the light, the temperature, the climate, what it may be, and we find that there's a purpose for that, and so. It's the same way. So that verse to me speaks to that there is a purpose, and there is no purpose without someone assigning that purpose, which would be our Creator, your God. So it definitely rings true on that aspect.
I mean, it's to me, it speaks to how important being vigilant in your observance is. Because of the fact that sometimes we can't see the purpose within ourselves, but somebody else can. You know, we got to look at ourselves as God's creation on top of it. You know, we can, you know, we see nature and everything in it, and sometimes we forget that we're part of nature.
That's right.
Yep.
You know, and we, you know, sometimes, like I said, we can be observant to each other and see a purpose within each other that we can't ourselves see. Raver Mom has always been the one to be like, hey, stop downing yourself, because this is what you were made for. You know, and I'd like to think that I do the same for her sometimes. Not as much as she does for me, but sometimes I think I get it right.
It's all right. You get it right.
But like, you know, like meeting K2, we've talked about our story of how we met, and you know, I saw a purpose in him, you know, that I think we've come to just, you know, start discovering as this journey has come along.
Yeah.
You know? But I at one point, I think I even told him, you know, dude, you're meant to be here.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, because it was only a short amount of time.
Yeah, I think I knew you for what, 2 months?
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
You know,
yeah, give or take. Yeah.
And you know, meeting you, you know, we talked about purpose and you know, stuff that we've done, and we've worked together in ministry, and you know, I think we've, you know, me and Techs-Mechs is who I'm talking to right now. You know, we helped each other see a purpose within, you know, within our relationship throughout time. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a very critical part, is, you know, and it's one of those things that comes with our favorite word, you know, fellowship. K2, yes. And it also comes with, you know, being there to help lift each other up, to help correct each other in times where we need to be corrected. And, you know, it comes with observance and being observant of the people around us and of each other. And everyone has a different role, you know. It's
like what the Bible says, that there's different parts of the body, they have different purposes, and we can't just compare ourselves to the next, because we might not be that same. I might be a hand or a toe, or or a hair follicle, but someone next to me might be an eye or an ear or something like that. So we all have different talents that we're given a purpose to use them for.
And it's kind of funny how God put 4 introverts into a room and made us the mouth.
Yep.
So in these,
I already know I have a mouth, so I just I wait to respond.
well, in the spirit of observance, I mean, did you guys see anything that stuck out to you about Stoner as a character?
No, I don't really remember Stoner that much of a character. Maybe because I didn't get that far into the series.
Well, he was a big side character.
I mean, I know he was a side character, but I don't remember many of his moments though.
And I think that's what what I like about him is the fact that he doesn't stick out.
Yeah.
He doesn't stick out at all, and really for me, he didn't stick out that much for me until he took the picture of Renton and Eureka on the board at sunset. And then I'm like, then I started listening to him talk. I'm like, whoa, he's deep,
He is.
But he is one of the biggest side characters. He's not a main at all in this show. He's a side character.
Yeah.
The vibe I get from him is like when you're watching a movie and there's this like homeless guy or just this nobody that walks up and just gives them like this little snippet of, fortune cookie quote.
I love that.
And then they're like, whoa, that's it. That's going to change my life. And, and it's a nobody, right? But
Wow.
I get that from Stoner, where he's like, he's just doing his thing. He's taking pictures. He's doing a magazine, and he'll kind of push them along, a character here or there along, in a way that they didn't know that they needed.
Yeah, he was the deep thought of the Gekkostate.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's not one that you would just think about. But he became my favorite character after that episode.
Yeah.
And he's the most chilled guy, but he's honest, and he doesn't mess with your brain. You come to him with a problem, he's going to be honest, straight to your face. He's going to tell you what he's observed, and he's going to tell you what you should do. And you can take it or leave it. This is my advice.
Kind of like
Take
a pastor.
it or leave it. he's the cleric of the Gekkostate.
He's the
pastor. He has a lot of qualities of a pastor. I will give him that. But no, I'm not surprised at all, K2, because I didn't notice him until close to season 2. I didn't give him any thought at all. So I wasn't very observant until that point. So what did you notice anything, Techs-Mechs?
I don't know. I feel like being a dead horse here at this point. But I think he, it's just the overall, the way that he was like an elder. He was there for them to give him that wisdom, as unbiased. And I like that they picked him as a journalist, because if you want a journalist, you expect the truth and nothing but the truth, right?
Yep.
And you want.
Well,
You hope.
That's what you would. I mean, once upon a time.
Yeah.
But, and so that's why it's almost like it's intentional.
Yeah.
If I were to write a character and I wanted a perfect journalist, it would be someone that is actually passionate about history, telling the story, and getting every angle, and even the nuance and the little things in between, like that picture of them two on the board.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the more deeper and heartfelt characters in the show.
Raver Mom, you got anything to add? I mean, you only saw maybe 30 seconds of Stoner in episode 1.
Yeah, I didn't see it. He wasn't a lot. I did notice, though, like K2 said, he was definitely a side character. And honestly, I was a little bummed that I didn't get to see more of him in episode 1. But I do want to point out the scripture that you picked. I'm surprised you didn't go to verse 19 first.
I should have.
You should have. So the verses that if you're not familiar with it, it's obviously the first chapter of John, or the first chapter of Romans. See, there I go again. And it's Paul's talking to the people of Rome, and he's talking about, and he brings up God's wrath against humanity and their wickedness and all of that. And he starts explaining that the purpose of the wrath from God is because of all the wickedness that's going on. And in verse 19, he says, since what may be known about God is plain to them because God has made it plain to them. And that's, even true to today. There are thousands upon thousands of people that think the Bible is full of nothing but wrath, hate, violence. And they're not wrong. There is violence, there is wrath, there is hate in the Bible. But that's not all of it. Like, God's as plain as can be. You look outside, the wind blows because it needs to blow. He makes the world go round. I had one of my third graders before spring break was like, hey, why can't we feel the earth move? Because if we did, it would put everything out of balance. Like, everything has a purpose. God made the purpose, and it just does what it does. He put it into motion. And it was so cool to see when children ask you questions, and I know you're a dad, Techs-Mechs, it is funny to see when you get to that point of, I can't answer this anymore, I don't know the answer, and you tell them God made it that way, they accept that. Not that I use it as my last resort, but like, sometimes just knowing that God has it under control is very comforting to them. Like, oh, God made it that way? Cool. Some of them you'll get, and they want to know more. They want to know more. They want to know more. Like Kid Koopa, he has to know. I have one in my class. He has to know. Why? Mm-hmm. Why? And there are times where he's like, oh, okay, and then he'll walk off. But God's plan is plain. It's not that hard. There are people out there trying to find answers. There are people trying to find reasons and a purpose and what do they do? What do I need to do? What do I do? What do I do? If you would just stop, sit, and wait,
be still,
you'll figure it out, because it's not in our time. Take a page out of Stoner's book. Be patient, be calm, be slow, and God's plan is plain. God is plain as can be. He's described perfectly in the Bible throughout all the scriptures.
I think that's why Jesus calls for us to be like children.
Yeah. Because
their faith, they'll understand his word and they'll believe his word.
Yeah, and it's so comforting to them. Like, they don't, I know as humans we have those flaws of questioning, and we gotta know. But if we would just be like a child like that, and just accept, which it's hard, especially with adults. I know for me, I like to control everything. I just rearranged my closet, and the Princess Vivi was trying to get in there and destroy it, and it was driving me nuts. But I let her be. She moved on to something else, and I was able to fix it. But it's like that. That's that. Like, children just need to just be able to be comforted or covered in our protection, or we just need to, and that's how God is.
I think God, that's a perfect point. God, he sees the heart. So when he says that he wants us to be like children, I think it's when a child wants to know, it's because they love, they're passionate about it. Mm-hmm. And when many adults want to know, it's because they want to control. Mm-hmm. They don't want to walk by faith, they want to walk by sight.
Yeah, or they want the answers.
Right.
They don't want to worry about anything else in between.
Mm-hmm. Right, subconsciously they're like, I want to be the master of my own destiny.
Yeah.
And talking from experience, going down that path, it always blows up in my face, you know.
Oh, Rev and I, we could say the same thing. There were points, and we were talking to Kid Koopa the other day about that, because he has a big control. We can see it. Like, he loves to be in control of every game they play, every story, everything. And we've had that conversation where you just wait. Like, and that's the worst part, is when someone's like that, like, you have to let them do it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't warn them. You can't, I mean, you can, but it's like, they've got to go through that. We did. I know for me, I had to, because I'm hard-headed as they come, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree in that. Like, I had to go through that. I had to learn to slow down. I had to learn to accept that things happen, and there's no explanations.
Well, I think that a lot of anxieties and issues that arise from stress and like depression, a lot of these things can also be remedied when sometimes they come through from, like you said, situations that they can't control, being in environments they can't control, their past, dealing with the past, which they cannot change.
Yeah.
A lot of these things can be remedied because all of that's centered on yourself. That's centered on me, it's centered on my future, my past, and my present. But when you start to take those eyes off of yourself, you start to serve others, and you start to realize that there's something that comes out of serving others. When you help someone, you feel a need. I mean, I know it sounds, like, all the, what do you say, like Hallmark, very Hallmark, very on brand. But the truth is, that's why they use service animals as well, or emotional support animals, I should say, because it's getting these people to kind of get their minds off of themselves, serve another person, another creature, and through their growth and through their needs and their accomplishments, they're receiving a secondary joy that comes from that. And being a part of that, you can say, this person's happy because I gave a part of myself for that, and I sacrificed a bit of myself, and all of a sudden you feel those anxieties and all those issues start to, quiet, because you start to realize it's not all about me, it's not all about my situation. I want to give that to someone else. I want to do something for someone else. So,
yeah. Well, and it also puts you in a state of it's not just me. I'm not the only one, which Satan wants you to be like that.
Isolated.
He wants you to feel isolated. He wants you to feel like it only happens to you. And truth be told, you're not alone. Nobody is alone in any situation. And as sad as it, I mean, we have had 4 kids, and granted, I had a near-death experience with number 3, but none of them, thank God, were in the NICU. Never had to experience that. My older brother had triplets, their last set of kids, and I say set because they have had many pregnancies.
Oh, wow.
But
those two.
Their last ones, they had triplets, and all of them were in the NICU. And I, as a mom of 3, who had none in the NICU at that point, was like, felt horrible, because I'm like, I can't relate to that. Well, then we had Princess Vivi, and we wind up in the NICU. And I sat there listening to all the beeps, to all the noises, to all the monitors, to all the things, and I'm like, this is so sad. And I did. I got very depressed about it, because the fact that I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to number 4, and here we are. But if you look around, even in the most craziest spot of the hospital, everybody is so happy. It's like a little community within the hospital. And it was just comforting to know that I was not the only mom. We were not the only parents who had a child that was dealing with something so extreme. And that's how we should be with one another, is like, I know for me, it's hard for me to share. Like, it is. My life, I grew up, your personal life was your personal life. Nobody wants to know your business. And that's a real sad way of looking at things, because if we talk, like you said, we serve and we help, then we can use what we've gone through in life as part of our testimony to maybe one day help somebody, you know? And it was in that moment, we were sitting in the NICU, and I was like, I've heard the stories, I've read stories on Facebook, I even, I'm watching this, not watching actively, but there is a new parent couple. They've been married for a while, they've been trying to have a baby, and they finally got pregnant, and it's an Italian husband, an American mom, and their little baby is in the NICU, and I'm like, now I don't feel sad. It's like I can pray for them and I know exactly what to pray for, or I know exactly how they're feeling, so I can relate to that, so I can give a better comforting, you know, not advice, but like encouragement to them, you know?
Right.
And it's using those experiences, thinking about that and pondering about that and being able to help and serve versus hiding it away and being isolated.
I think God created us to congregate.
Yeah.
A body its parts aren't divided; they're together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think everyone should find their community. It's always good to find a church, and you know, of course, when you're shopping around, you're making sure it's Bible based.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not doing all these weird things, but to get together with other people and to share the load is very important.
Yeah,
it is. The Bible says, "Iron sharpens iron."
Mm-hmm.
You know, wherever two or more gathered on my name,
mm-hmm.
I'm there. You know, it's so important.
Through the course of Vivi's hospital stay, there was actually a nurse that was there, and that nurse is actually one of our first listeners. While we were there, I wore anime pretty much every day. That's kind of the comfort that I reveled in, because it's a very uncomfortable situation to be in. And like she was saying, with the community of nurses and stuff that were in that hospital, they did their hardest to stay positive. And they tried to keep that light going, you know, through possibly one of the darkest floors you could possibly be on. And she came in for 2 days, you know, between me and Raver Mom, and she finally, I was wearing an anime shirt that kind of caught her attention, and she started asking me questions. And at that point, this podcast was just a thought. It was a plan. It wasn't a execution. This was a couple of months before the podcast actually started. But the nurse that was there, right there in the room, she joined our first ministry page, and she stayed vigilant on the lookout of us dropping our first episode for the podcast, and she was one of our first listeners.
That's really cool.
That's awesome.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, hi.
But she still follows us on the main ministry page, and I haven't been able to look through all of our subscribers on the podcast page for Facebook, but I do know that she's been a listener from the beginning.
Oh.
See, that's comforting even more.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
But it just shows that even in the darkest times of your life, God's there doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for Vivi having to go through that, and us having to go through that as parents, one person wouldn't have been able to hear God's word in a way that they needed to hear it.
I'll say that my son as well, he was 4 months premature in the NICU, just days before I had to go to basic training. which they don't allow you to have phone calls. It's all mail. So I will say that, you know, through that hardship, I really had to lean into my faith, and you know, I had to congregate with others of the faith, and you know, pray every night, and just waiting for a letter, waiting for a picture, and an update. You know, was my son still alive? And my wife had to deal with that without me. You know, so. But those hard times, like you said, it builds that testimony. It builds something you can share, and my faith grew.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that you know, my son is a miracle.
Well, yeah, I mean, because especially in moments like that where you can talk about it, and I mean, there are times where I talk about things that I've gone through, and people are like, "Well, you seem so light about it, like it's not a big deal," and it's like, no, like it was a big deal.
You got it
like,
all put together.
It was a big deal. Like, you have no idea, you know, one of those things. But it's like, if it wasn't for God sending this person, or God giving me this, or God allowing this, or like, if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be who I am today. Like, I probably wouldn't even be alive if it wasn't for God. And that's not just like saying the extreme. I almost died in a delivery room. I almost died when I was 2. There were a couple other times where, like, I was at the edge of death. Like,
You still have a purpose.
And yeah, and I'm still here. Not to say, like, I'm not thankful that, of course, science, medicine, and all of that, but when I was 2, that was, oh my gosh, 1989. So that tells you how old I am, which I don't care. But medicine wasn't as advanced. And so when I started to get to where I wasn't breathing and I was turning colors, and they took me, I was with my great aunt, and they took me to the emergency room. They're like, well, we can't do much because mom and dad aren't here. We need mom and dad. They're an hour away. So like, when I say when I was 2 and I almost died, I literally almost died. I was turning purple. I was born dead. Princess Pika was born dead. Like, very similar situation, but that was back in the 80s, late 80s. Medicine was not advanced.
It's even scarier.
So when I say God has had a hand in my life, I mean God has had a hand in my life. And if it wasn't for him and the people he sent, I would not be here. So I was telling somebody a while back, and I was explaining some of the things that I had gone through in my life. And it was like, they were like, oh man, I can't believe that. And I'm like, I can. We have a whole book that explains miracles and people being raised from the dead, and limbs being grown, and eyes being cleaned. And this should not be a shock to you. Like, if you believe the Bible, you should believe miracles still happen, you know? And it is crazy to think when you're in the moment of something happening. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. But if you sit and actually think about it, God's in it. Of course it's going to happen. Of course it's going to, this miracle is going to happen. And we shouldn't be as shocked as what we are. We should be expecting every day.
Expecting. Right. I just want to say that God, I hope God will bless all of those people that, I pray that God will bless all those that help others, in the medical field, those
Absolutely,
who sacrifice their time and, more 16 hours, 18 hours longer.
Yeah.
Just, to make sure that our loved ones make it, and, that the ones in the NICU that have to go through all the deaths and see all those children pass.
Yeah.
And still try to carry that light, hold it, and bring it to the next child and the next parent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was talking to one of my nurses, and I can't remember if it was when we were in the NICU or when I was actually in the hospital at one of the births. And I asked her how long they had done it, and it was double digits. I don't remember the number, but it was double digits. And I was like, man, that's crazy. She goes, yeah, you actually don't hear that. And I was like, well, why? And they said, because it's hard to handle. It's definitely a burden, hard to handle, and I would not be able to do it. I know I do what I do because I can handle it. But to be in that situation for double-digit years, it's one of those, you've got to be able to have some strength that isn't normal.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You okay over there, Rev?
Yeah.
Are we?
I started getting emotional for a minute, so just leave me there.
We took the mic.
Hey,
I'm not able to talk.
Me and Techs-Mechs took the mic last week.
Yeah, we did.
I'm sorry you got emotional.
It's okay. At one point, it looked like you were about to cry too. So,
Listen, I will
I'm
say,
not crying, you're crying.
right? I think after Princess Pika was that whole mess, it was almost a year before I actually was comfortable enough to talk about the experience I went through with her.
yeah, no,
I mean, it takes time
Yeah.
to be able to talk about things, and especially with that, and that's understandable, and I feel like that's okay.
And with that story alone, if it wasn't for an observant, what do you call it, midwife,
Yeah.
things could have gone way different. I mean, long story short, with that, Princess Pika was born black and blue, no color to her, and they were doing every technique that they possibly could to get her to breathe. They cleared out her airways. They did, baby CPR. They have this little suction cup thing on the end of a stick where they pop them in the butt, and the noise is supposed to make them wake up, along with a little jolt and shock to the lungs to kind of like tickle the nerves, and whatever other technique they decided to do. They were doing so much junk it wasn't funny, but they would not give us any information, and they wouldn't let us see her. I tried to get over there. Raver Mom was in a panic. Of course, she looked, just as terrible as she felt at that point, because she was going through something that nobody knew what was going on yet. And I'm trying to get through, and the midwife comes up to me and she goes, "What's going on?" And if it wasn't for the fact that she observed me in a panic, then things would have just went differently. And I looked at her, I was like, they're not letting me see my kid, they're not giving me any information, they're not letting us know what's going on. I need answers. I was like, I need to know what they're doing.
Busting some doors down, man.
And
There were so many nurses
there
in
was
that
like
room.
8 to 10 nurses in
I
that
couldn't
junk.
even see where they took the baby because there were so many people around
Grab
me
one,
and
making them
around
talk.
and around them, and I had my best friend at the time in the room with me, and she stayed with me while he went, because I was like, go to her, but she wasn't crying. And I knew when she came out, the color that she was, that how limp as she was, I knew something would, like, you could, it's one of those gut feelings when you know, like, I knew something
You're expecting
was wrong.
that cry.
Yeah, something.
I looked at the midwife and I was like, I need something. And so she walks up to the nurse who's doing all the work, and she was a God-fearing woman. I think we were her last delivery before she retired.
She was retiring.
And so she didn't care about rapport with the nurses or anything else at that point. She walks up to them, she flips them around, and goes, "You need to give this daddy some answers. That daddy needs to get to his baby, because that's where he's supposed to be." And it had to be the most unprofessional I've ever seen nurses be, because all of them threw everything down and said, "We're done. We're not going to do anything else. There's nothing we can do." And they had the worst attitude, because the lady was up in age.
She was a grandmother or great grandmother?
Oh yeah, she was an older lady. I mean, had to be the oldest lady in the hospital working. And even the look on her face was like, well, And I walked up there, and Pika's complexion was just getting darker and darker and darker. No life, no movement, no nothing. And I was overcome with dread and shock. And I was fighting back tears, and I couldn't breathe myself. I didn't know what I could possibly do. I couldn't do anything. And I couldn't even talk at that point, because I have Raver Mom behind me trying to get me to answer. And the midwife was kind of off to the side of me, and the only thing I could get out was God breathe. I could only say 2 words: God breathe. And no sooner did I get the word breathe out, she was blood red and screaming. And she hasn't shut up since.
Glory to God.
But the midwife, all the nurses were like, what'd you do? What happened? You know, and all this junk like that.
Something they couldn't do.
The midwife.
You say you touched her too, like you touched her.
Yeah, I was touching like her leg or something like that. She was so cold, and the midwife, they were like, oh, you know what happened? Now all of a sudden 8 nurses want to get back to work now that everything's okay, you know. And the midwife looked at him and said, that baby just needed her daddy. And she gave me a smile when she said it.
Oh.
And you know, she you know, daddy brought daddy, you know, daddy brought Father God with him, and that's what did it. And you know, there is no way that anybody in that operating room can say, if they were observant enough to get their heads out of their butts, that God wasn't in that room. It was an insane night.
Thank you guys for sharing that.
But,
Yes, thank you.
But, I mean, even after that, Raver Mom was bleeding uncontrollably. We didn't know that either. And tradition.
So it wasn't over.
No, it
No,
wasn't
the
over.
It was
chaos.
just beginning.
It was actually started happening simultaneously. I had so when my midwife, she had a trainee at that time, and the trainee was on me, so the midwife could focus on both situations. And when the midwife walked off, the trainee is trying to like clean me up, you know, get the placenta, blah blah blah. And sorry for the gory details.
I kind of felt that.
And,
When you said that word.
and so anyway, so the trainee couldn't get the bleeding to stop, and it was getting more and more and more. Well, I want to say it was like the head nurse, the charge nurse, or something. Like she was one of the top nurses, and she was tall. I want to say she was maybe 6 feet tall.
Wow.
And I mean, she was no scrawny thing. She was built a little, you know, not like
Different.
She wasn't chunky, but she was a bigger build. Okay, so that's about how this woman, and she actually gets on top of me, and she's pushing out what I thought was one thing. It was actually blood. And so I was literally bleeding uncontrollably. Wow. So the trainee midwife called over the head midwife, and she took over, and they couldn't figure out what it was. I still don't have an answer. They think that there was different like clots or something, or something sticking, but like even my head midwife couldn't figure it out. I bled so much that, and they actually would not let him. So our tradition is after I have a baby, or had, not have it anymore. You can quote me on that. But after I have my baby, he will go and he'll get me a soda and a Snickers bar, and he'll get me something to eat wherever I want. And so I requested a pub sub. So,
oh, that's a good request.
Yes. So he went, he got my soda, my Snickers bar, and my public sub, and he came back, and they actually would not allow him back in the room.
Oh, at that point, I was trying to break down a door.
Yeah.
Because of how severe it was.
No wonder those doors were reinforced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because I was pushing through the door. They would not let me in.
Yeah. I had to stay a whole nother night in labor and delivery. It did stop on its own, but they have no idea why.
Well,
I had bled so much, I could not keep my eyes open.
Whenever I walked in there, she was whiter than the sheet.
I'm guessing they had to transfuse and.
Well, they almost did.
Wow.
They did. They wind up not having to. They said if I would have kept bleeding the way I did, then they would have had to.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Just the importance of giving blood too.
Yes.
Shout them
out. Yes.
Go to your local blood drive.
Absolutely. So, but yeah, it was two big major things happened at once, and if it wasn't for God in both situations, neither one of us would have been here. So,
I was out in the hallway praying and yelling at nurses. I mean, what a mix.
What a night.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was very, very crazy.
But yeah, no, it again.
Sorry, K2, for all the.
No, you're good.
Crazy parental stories.
I think is that the first time you've heard that story?
No, I think not as much detail.
Okay.
This is the first one I've heard that much detail.
I think I passively shared it with you at the school whenever we worked there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, a lot more went into it. But yeah, no, it. If we just take the time to pay attention, you know, you can see miracles every day. They're all over the place. And, you know, it's in those moments where you truly find either your purpose or somebody finds theirs. You know, and I think that's what it all boils down to. You know?
I think having faith in those moments, you really end up cashing that in.
Yeah.
You know, and then if you don't think, even if it's not you going through that, and someone else really is going through the time like that, you know, lend your faith to them by being there to help in whatever way you can, and or even just being there and sitting there with them. You know, I've sat next to those who've lost loved ones, and sometimes I think just having a soul in proximity is a comfort to someone going through something like that.
Yeah, I was telling somebody that today in a conversation I was having, and I was letting them know, like explaining to them. I'm very wordy when I try to over-explain, and I was feeling bad because I felt like I was over-explaining. But in some cases, you have to tell people that, like, I can be this, I can be that, I can just sit here with you. What do you want? I could be your ear, your shoulder. I could be your chair. You want to sit on my, you know, and it whatever you need, like that's what we need to be to people, because then they might open up, or they might just sit. But like you said, it could be comforting to them. Maybe it just helps them not feel alone with whatever they're going through.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing about having what we've come to say is having your own fellowship, having your group, you know, and that's one thing that's been a comfort to us since the beginning of the podcast, is the fact that throughout the course of it, you know, at the beginning, you know, us three knew, you know, we had each other's back. You know, if one of us is sick, it's always, dude, if you need something, let us know. If you need me to go to the store and pick something up, let me know. If you need me to pick you up and take you to a doctor's appointment, let me know. You know, if you are shipped off in an ambulance, you better tell me what hospital you're at. You know, and it's really cool to see the fellowship that we have here expand and grow.
I'm just here for the tacos.
You're just here for the tacos? Yeah, Techs-Mechs.
You would say that.
Speaking of, he finally got his taco fix, K2.
Yes, we went to Sonic and I had a white man taco.
Oh yes, because Sonic. That's where I think of when I think of tacos.
Yep.
Sonic
had a chili cheese coney taco.
Oh, those are great. That's like arguably the best thing out of that restaurant.
Yes.
Yeah, that and the tots.
Yes.
Tots are always good.
Oh my
All they
goodness.
need is trace the cheesecake. It will be good.
Yeah, I'm easy to please.
Hey, you might get it in a milkshake. You never know.
I Sonic,
a
yeah.
churro shake or something like that.
They have, I think, vanilla as an option and cherries. So I mean, you could kind of make a tres leche cake.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of, can you?
Me?
Yeah, can you or wifey make a tres leche cake?
So I'm the guy, right? So I do all the barbecuing. I do the fajitas.
I know you do the barbecue.
Hey. You said grandma's coming to live with you.
Yeah, but that's her grandma.
But her grandma can cook, right?
Actually, yeah, exactly. The grandma can bake, so.
Ask her. I want that for my birthday.
It's Nana, right?
Nana.
Just tell Nana that Rev and Raver Mom want a Tres Leches cake.
Oh, she's gonna bake something.
I want a homemade one.
I guarantee you, the day she's here, if it's not late, she'll already be cooking something up. She'll be so happy to be here.
Yeah, tell her we miss her.
Yeah,
we miss seeing her.
I have had one homemade tres leche cake, and I would love for someone to make me that.
Well, funny enough, I think the last time we had a homemade one is there's a gas station that we used to stop at that goes down toward Tampa. It's like this hole in the wall, corner
this sounds
road
like
gas
a great
station.
place to pick up a cake.
And
It was.
and this gas station had this mom and pop Mexican restaurant in the corner. And she just cut the sheet cake and put it into little things. Yeah. And I saw that and I was like, ooh. I was like, that's a road snack. It's the messiest road snack ever, but that's a road snack.
Talking about gas station food, I was brave once and I had gas station sushi.
Oh, that is brave.
This isn't Japan. We don't eat gas station sushi.
And I made it through. No problem.
Have you ever had Walmart sushi?
I had Publix sushi.
Publix sushi is really good.
Somebody actually comes and rolls and cuts the sushi daily for Publix. But Walmart...
I don't know if I had.
Walmart is gas station sushi that's gone bad.
I don't think I've been to
Not that great.
It's gone bad.
Stay at Publix. Yeah. We actually bought it one time and we regretted every bite.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Terrible. Okay, so question time. So Stoner dedicates himself to documenting the truth through photography and journalism. Why do you think recording history is important even during difficult times?
So there's a record of it. So you know how to deal with it when it comes up again. So, like the old saying is, history's doomed to repeat, unless you have it written down.
I think you got to learn from history. Yeah. You got to take it. And that's how you learn from your mistakes. You got to remember them.
Okay. Raver Mom?
I'm just gonna say yes.
She doesn't teach history.
No, I do actually. I teach history, and I think it's extremely important. Our Bible curriculum that we use does a lot of archaeological, historical. It incorporates history and findings and things. It also incorporates historical pieces of works of art, things like that. And I think it's very, very important because not only just do you learn from it, but to also share it. I mean, that's why we have the Bible. The Bible is our history. And if we didn't have it, we wouldn't have all the examples that we can learn from. We wouldn't have examples to help us through life or to encourage us or anything like that. And I feel like our history books, just in general, give us that as well, because even if we're like in the middle of something, it can guide whoever it is that needs it, almost like a guidebook.
Yeah,
I think so.
I was starting to get that vibe about it, where you're saying that we could use it as almost like an instruction manual sometimes. Hey, I remember this situation when this, civilization went through it. Mm-hmm. Maybe we should try that. And sure enough, it could be a solution.
Yeah. The acronym for the Bible is Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that, yeah.
All right. Question number 2. This is a fun one.
Are you sure?
Yeah, this is fun. Which anime character from any series
Okay.
Oh.
would cause the most chaos if they suddenly joined Gekkostate for a day?
Inosuke.
Try to fight everybody.
Wow, that was quick.
You get thrown right out.
He causes the most chaos no matter where he goes. Him or Black Star.
I think Black Star would actually fit.
Or Luffy. He causes chaos.
Yeah, but he wouldn't cause trouble though. Like he doesn't actively like seek it out.
Okay, then Inosuke is my final answer.
Yeah, no skate. Yeah,
Man, I can't even think of one.
he just goes steal a mech and
Fight
go
me!
fight someone.
Bryce, don't kill me. That was the worst Inosuke ever. Yep. Him going around, fight me! Yeah.
Definitely.
Yep, that's him. My answer.
Little footnote: the guy who does the voice of Gabriel in Gabriel and the Guardians, Jonathan Young or Johnny Young, does the voice of Renton in Eureka Seven.
Johnny Young Bosch?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
he does the voice of Renton.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep, just a little insert there.
He was in Initial D too, wasn't he?
I think so. Yeah.
So was I think Crispin Freeman,
Yeah.
who does Holland's voice.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's on there. So back to the question.
Yeah, I gave my answer. Come on, boys.
I don't know how much he would be able to get done in a day, but I'm gonna go with Lelouch
Okay.
from a better mech anime. He would get a lot
Shots
done.
fired. he went with a clamp anime.
I think I need to
He's
trade
he's
places
gonna-
with Techs-Mechs over there.
He's gonna look over at Holland and be like, "Let me show you how it's done."
Lelouch.
This is how you topple the government.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
One episode, it's over.
It's all about him, you know. He was,
This sucks.
I was thinking
That's
about,
funny.
I don't know who would be chaotic, but I think Ed from Cowboy Bebop, I think he'd fit right in,
Yeah,
actually.
he would fit.
I think he would fit.
I know it's kind of like an anti-answer, but that's,
Yeah,
that's what my
it's a
brain's
real-
doing right now. If that's
I
such
love
a thing.
it. I love it.
Chaos-wise, honestly, I'm surprised you didn't say it, but I think it'd be funny if Bakugo jumped in.
Yeah.
Oh,
The Gekkostate would blow up before the end
Yeah.
of the first mission.
yeah, he couldn't sit still and be patient.
Come on, let me out! Let me at
I'll
him!
take them all out.
I'll kill you!
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't even need a mech, so
No, you let him in the Nearbosh, all of a sudden, and Nearbosh is gonna go red and stay red.
Yeah. Pride.
Everybody went?
Yep.
Okay.
I was the first one. Are you kidding?
She needs to go again.
Bacon.
I need to go again? No.
Well, now, I mean, because you went with somebody who fit with the cast, you also went with somebody who fit in the cast.
B and K2 are the only one who understood the assignment.
So now I'll go with somebody who can fit in the
But I
cast.
got-
I
I
did-
would go with Colin.
I think Bakugo would actually.
Really?
Cause
I don't.
chaos.
Yeah, he would cause. You're right. He would cause chaos.
Yeah. So,
Why are you looking at me?
Inosuke would cause chaos.
Yeah, Nosuke would cause chaos.
He'd want to fight everybody.
But Black Star, the second one, I think he'd fit.
Yeah, he would fit a little more. Yeah.
Just because he's weird. He'd fit. Yeah, misfit. Okay, so everybody kind of said something
Yeah.
chaotic. Except for Lelouch, which is like,
Lelouch
take you
yeah.
down.
I was just acting chaotic.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Any other thoughts?
Nope.
No. We good? All right. Father God, I thank you for bringing us together. God, to do a ministry that none of us thought would be imaginable. To do something that can be so impactful. Father God, I pray that as we continue to watch your ministry grow, that we be vigilant in observing the people around us. That we continue to watch and keep our eye out for those who are in need of your word, that are in need of your help and your guidance, Father God. Father God, that we continue to be your light to a world that is full of darkness. God, I pray that we continue to see you in everyday life, that we continue to see you in the world around us, that we see you in the world created by artists and animators. God, I pray that we continue to lift you up and give you the praise in all that we do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Reb's Otaku Talk. Make sure to subscribe and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to like and follow us on our Facebook page at Reb's Otaku Talkers and on X at Reb's Otaku Talk. We'd love to hear from you, so drop a comment, leave a review, and share your favorite God and anime moments with the community. Also, check out Reb's Otaku Shop to grab some awesome merch. And don't miss out on a bag of RevsCon Kohi coffee. The link is in the description below. Until next time, keep your anime collection strong and your faith stronger. See you later, guys.
Take care, all.
Hasta la vista.
Trivia time, let's spin that cup. Kid Koopa's crown, can he keep it up? Listener mail and fan debates. We love the art the Lord creates. From Studio Ghibli to Naruto, God speaks in ways you didn't know. Stories rise like rising sun. We break them down one by one. Chew, this ain't just hype, it's revelation. Anime with holy inspiration. Otaku life with transformation. Faith and fandom, no limitation. It's Revs! Otaku talk! From JoJo's post to Spirit Lead, we laugh, reflect, and plant that seed. It's Revs! Otaku talk! So hit that play, don't walk away. Let's geek and grow in Jesus' way. O-T-A-K-U, talking truth in all we do. Revs crew, rolling through. Faith meets fandom just for you.
Otaku.
Oh, I was watching The Mummy.
Yeah.
The first one?
Yeah,
So-
I don't know why, but it came up on one of my suggested things, and I was like, oh, this is cool.
Brendan
And,
Fraser's going to be at MegaCon.
and yeah, I know. And
Are you serious?
yes, and
And Sean Astin also.
the whole thing about them doing
Yes.
another mummy has been
Yeah.
like going through my Facebook feed and stuff. So I put it on and I started it earlier in the day. Well, I needed to make stuff for our church webpage or our church page. And so I was like, I'm going to go and work. So then he started to work and I was watching it and they were parts that was just no idea, but I thought they were funny.
Golden.
And so I was laughing and I'd look over and you could see him stop what he was doing. But I didn't know if you heard me because I was like, man, I am laughing kind of hard.
Yeah, I
It was a
love
pretty
the
funny
first
movie.
one. My favorite part is, "Hey O'Connell, I've got all the horses." And he's like, "Hey Benny, you're on the wrong side of the river."
No, I love the brother. The brother was just one of those stupid, funny characters.
Jonathan?
Yes,
The
he's
thief.
yeah.